Testing. Going to say some stuff. Might be shocking, might be common sense. It might be blah blah, nothing but what am I doing? What am I going to do for dinner? Why am I listening to this guy rant on? Really, I've got nothing to say. I'm just talking. Why even listen to me? Maybe I do know some things in my 28 plus years of living happily, singly, living plenty of time without a stable job, living not knowing who I am. Suffering does provide wisdom, does open your heart and mind. And I don't have any reason to defend myself other than I want to, right? I didn't tell you had to listen. But there is one thing I'd like to tell all of humanity if I had the chance that would fix so many problems. Exponentially fixing, mending, preventing so much suffering. And it's so simple. If only you'd pay 5 payments of $5.99. No, I wish. But wisdom comes, goes. Knowledge comes and goes. We keep what we want. We throw away what we don't want. Ultimately, if we don't write them down, if we don't practice what we preach, if we don't internalize things, our inner selves say, that was whatever. What was that? I'm moving on to more important things, right? It's all just a cycle anyways. There's nothing to do. And yet there's everything to do. So what's there to do? But that's not it. So we seem to accept the human condition of suffering. That we're always going to mess up. We're always going to make the wrong decision. And there's always a better way we could have lived. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's in our heads. It seems we live our lives to combat one mindset. The mindset of regret, right? It seems so nasty, so vicious, so unavoidable. No matter what we do, it's always going to be there, laughing at us. Either road we take is going to be there at the end, smiling, grinning evilly. But there's one thing that can defeat it. I'm just going to say it. I'm tired of all this build-up. Kind of have to sometimes, or otherwise it just blows over my own head and others. Regret cannot exist where there is self-compassion. I'll say that again. You can't ever have regret if you have self-compassion. It seems so simple. We live our lives to try to combat this mindset, and yet we don't have to have it. So why do we think worrying, the more we worry, the more we won't have future worry? That's not how it works. We either have worry or we don't. We can either live our lives and let go, or worry about other people worrying so we're still just as bad as they are. It seems so simple. People are people, and what can you expect? They think they know because they feel, right? Feelings are good. Feelings, if we don't sit around and enjoy the feelings, what are we doing with our lives? As far as I can tell, life is best lived when you're feeling. That doesn't mean thinking isn't a good tool. Definitely is. But that's what it is. It's just a tool. If we think thinking is living, we're completely delusional, and I hate it when I try to see things as black and white, say things so black and white, because it isn't. I don't know anything because it's a feeling, right? Lessons are feelings, and you don't know if lessons are true or not unless they're tried and tested and they work. I'm just saying, I've already lived in eternity. 1 year in its own right in the modern world is an eternity. And people don't realize that it's just as long as a whole lifetime, right? There's different cases. A year, 100 years ago could be a day, and a lifetime could be a week. It all depends on how they live. How much variety is there? How much breaking up the monotony is there? And I feel like I've probably lived at least 3 or 4 lifetimes by that standards. So in a way, I don't feel like I'm 28. I feel like I don't even want to think about it, right? And there's some things people don't realize until they're old and they think they're full of regret. But really, they're just not seeing how it's just a syndrome of the grass is greener, the grass was greener on the other side, or the grass is greener on the other side. But really, it's just a mindset. It's just irrational forces acting on the mind, and they think because they feel it, it must be true. Right? I want to apologize for being so forward. We think with our inner minds, not our rational minds, especially when hearing new shocking things. So again, I'm probably wrong. I'm probably an idiot and living my life the wrong way. But who's to say, right? There's no judge. I mean, there might be. But the way I see it, our fates are eternally sealed because we're acting on the present. Or the past, I mean. The past influences the present. We have much, much less control. And that seems shocking, but it is what it is. We act based on what worked in the past, what we learned in the past. And we can try to change it up, but we change it up because the past didn't work. So really, is anybody absolutely free? It's a good question. What makes one person more free than another person? We could be here all day debating that, and how many grayscales, but it's theoretical. Life is a feeling experience. We arguably don't know how the real world works. We just know how to interact with it. That it works because what we do to the world works. We don't know how combustion engines, computers, so many things, how exactly they work, the vast majority of us. And even, I'm sure the engineers don't fully know, they just know what works, right? So life is just an experimental process. And if you don't enjoy it, if you don't enjoy the journey, you can't enjoy the destination. If you are never living in the present, you won't enjoy the future present. And I know some people have already harped that to death, but it's worth saying again, and until the end of time. If you can never enjoy the present at any moment, you can't enjoy the future present. That's just the way it is, right? It seems so shocking. And this whole society is built on a scarcity model, on an anxious model, on a model of you must save, you must enjoy the future, the fruits of the future, the fruits of your labor that will pay off one day. But what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't provide as much joy as we anticipated? What if, again, because we didn't know any better, we might not have that regret. So we say, okay, that's okay. But I'm just saying it's a good thing to have tools in your toolbox. The more variety, the more tools you have, the better you are to face the job. Because we never know what future job, literally and figuratively, we're going to be faced with. Are we going to have to look after little kids? Are we going to have to fix our bodies? You know, you can be super paranoid, or you can just live your life and just adapt in the moment and trust the universe, trust God and whatever higher forces there are, that we're going to know what to do when the challenges hit us. So what's the point in worrying? Worrying increases stress, increases weight, increases inactivity. So in a way, I'm probably wasting my time saying these things. I don't know. I guess it's kind of fun. In a way, I think the main thing was the regret message. But also, I'm no angel either. Intellectually, spiritually, so many ways. Maybe the wisest of us, the best of some of us, think if I don't get married, I'm not going to know how that lifestyle was, and how am I going to enjoy smoking a cigar in the company of men who did go down that lifestyle? What is there going to be to talk about? There's always nothing to talk about, right? We don't know what exactly happened in the past. We have our best guesses. We have recollections of an inner mind that clung to some information, and it let go of other information it didn't see as necessary. It feels more than rationalizes. And that's okay. It's the spice of life that we don't remember everything. If you've ever kept a diary, it is absolutely cringeworthy because you're taking everything so seriously, and then 5 years later, the vast majority of your problems didn't even matter. Right? I just want to burn all my journals I have from 15 years ago. People say, no, save that. There's so much useful information. No, my mind kept all the information it ever needed. And I know that because I'm still functioning. I'm still alive. Did I always know how to thrive? No, but that's okay. And just for clarification, I used to think planning, strategizing, and so much of what made a YouTube video successful pre these open talks was essential. And I've come to realize, no, so much of enjoying life and knowing that in the grand scheme of things, these videos are nothing. So eliminating expectation frees us and opens us to enjoy ourselves, not just in YouTube land, life in general, because what do expectations do? They tell us how something should be. It should meet these lofty aims, right? If it doesn't meet the lofty aim, it's disappointing, if not useless. But if we go into something because we want to enjoy the journey, we want to go fishing, oh, I wonder what's out there, not I want to catch a redfish, right? Because if we do the latter, either we catch the redfish or whatever we're after in life or any pursuit, we either get it and we're content, or we're in hell because we don't get it, right? So the antidote with any practice is to only do it if we will enjoy it, regardless of how the outcome is. That's the only way we can spiritually connect with anything, really, to enjoy the journey. Because destinations, especially with expectations, are usually stagnant dead ends. And I'm not saying that people are that. People are so complex beyond our comprehensions. I barely know how humans function and think and all that. Psychologists hardly know. There's just new things discovered all the time, and also as every living creature, right? We're biased. We think we're the most complex. We're the most intelligent. There's so many types of intelligence, right? Not just in the brain. There's functional, adaptive, so many types of intelligence. It's so easy to get wrapped up in, we know we're the pinnacle of evolution. We're just one path, right? You can I'm not going to get too into the semantics, but that's more true than not. I know that. and everything is created for a reason and has a function, and it is designed to follow that function. And yet there's other things. It's actually pretty darn rampant that something was evolved seemingly to do something, but it's great at something else, called exaptations. We think everything's an adaptation. It's made to do one thing, but adaptations are great at many things, and that ultimately makes you more adaptable than just having something to be adapted to do one thing. So there's infinite number of realizations and lessons, not just because of that, in the universe. Even a deck of cards, there's infinite number of combinations, and it's hard to comprehend. So just imagine in the universe, just on Earth, there's near infinite variables, and some variables will probably never interact, and that's okay. But I was just thinking a minute ago, taking a brisk walk to the kitchen. Right, I throw this around all the time in YouTube comment land, and it's amazing. I can even find fulfillment there, find joy and personal realizations through the process of doing. Right, but it's just one tool in life. I came to the realization some time ago, we are emotional, spiritual beings more than logical, rational beings. The evidence is everywhere. There's case closed, no questions asked. And that's pretty rare in life, right? There's so many things up for interpretation, up for debate. No, we operate on feeling, belonging. Evidence is everywhere. And that's okay. But that doesn't mean we can't use our mind and be rational to fill in the gaps, to fill other voids, to be better adapted at living. Ultimately, that's mostly by having no expectations and no worry, but I'm just, spoiler alert, no, life is too short to really expand on all of it, and especially when you don't feel like it, and you know so many inevitabilities of life and making videos, but that's okay. Smart people who can comprehend it will probably figure it out on their own, so really there's no point in me trying to explain all of it. But anyways, because we're spiritual, emotional beings, I was thinking, how are we best connected with other variables spiritually? How do we best experience, say we want to be as spiritually connected with a bull shark as we possibly can? Who's done it the most? The person that catches a bull shark, that goes on a boat, they fight the fish, they overcome them, catch them. Is it the guy that cuts open the bull shark to get the meat out? He understands the anatomy. Is it the guy who digs up fossils and sees what other species were living at the same time when they evolved and interacted with? You can't see how they interact, but you can see the general abundance of what preserves in the fossil record. Is it the guy that studied bull shark behavior, looking at satellite tags? Was it the guy who was swimming in the ocean and got bit by a bull shark? Ultimately, it's open for interpretation. And I know this is probably part of me, my past me, popping back up, but I think it is spiritually provoking that we're such emotional, feely, irrational creatures, and that's okay, because ultimately life is just about enjoying it, enjoying the journey, not worrying about where we end up. We want to be sustainable. We want to not step on too many toes, hopefully. But by worrying about stepping on toes, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. So you might say, if I don't have any expectations, how am I supposed to be excited? how am I supposed to do anything if I'm not excited to do it? Of course, we must have excitement and expectations, but they're already built into our mind. We don't actively have to act on it. If we're interested in anything and have any desires, they'll pop up, right? But if we make expectations on top of expectations, they become, what's the word? Something nasty, right? We have to act on our hearts. Man, I didn't expect to have that roundabout logic, but it's true that we don't figure out anything. We already know what is going to make us, and if we don't know what's going to make us happy, we just experiment and something sticks, right? So there's so many cognitive biases, like, don't trust in survivorship bias, where you're reading books about the most successful people. Maybe they were just lucky. Maybe they were just at the right place at the right time, and their routines are irrelevant. And I feel like this effect also has other applications, that we trust in stuff because it seems to be the right way. But ultimately, who's to say what's more correct than something else, right? In the same way, not having worry doesn't mean you're not alert. You know what to look out for. But if we have invisible monsters chasing us, we're constantly stressing out about nothing. And then 20 years pass and we realize that the problem wasn't there. So what were we fretting about? And in a way, coming to such stark realizations so early on in my life, although I know I'm about in halftime, because the older you get, the faster time goes, and the less, no matter what, I don't think you realize and learn things as much, so it kind of just flies by more. So I know, even though I'm in my late 20s, it's probably halfway done, if not 3/4, in the grand scheme of how it feels, how much I need to adapt. Although it feels absolutely ridiculous being in this full-time job right now, how smoothly it's going, and it's going by pretty darn quick. If you don't look around and enjoy it, it'll just pass you by. But again, we have this, even I'm hindered by this thing, we have to live to minimize regret. But ultimately, we just need to live in the present and work on self-compassion, because the most important relationship we're ever going to have is with ourselves. If we can't enjoy ourselves, make ourselves fulfilled, how is anybody else supposed to do that? They're not us. They don't know how our inner mind works, what works and what doesn't. They know what works for them, what seems to work for people in general. But man, oh man, what is there to do except everything and nothing? Right? Is it existential pain constantly, and yet there's existential joy in just existing, because ultimately it is a vacation from the eternal fate, no matter what that might be or might not be. Who's to say? Right? This is a vacation. It's meant to be enjoyed. It's meant to have variety. And yet, we think having variety in everything except the most important things is the key. That, and I guess there is stability in that. It's dependence. It's living as though we're on a stable foundation. We must have a stable foundation under us. But maybe we can keep existing if that stable foundation under us is constantly changing. Maybe we can trust our feet. We can Just keep moving and not fear death and regret. It's deep, man. But yeah, there's so much to be grateful for all the time, all around us, no matter how hellish our life, how empty our life might feel. It's never empty. It's full of so many joys and experiences them in the past, in the present, so many lessons. No matter what you go through, there are blessings in everything. No matter how torturous something is, it teaches you something, right? It tells you, don't do that again. Don't work in retail. You're going to be absolutely mind-numbingly, existentially bored, drained. People don't make sense, right? The vast majority of people I just can't get along with. I can't understand, and that's fine. I don't have to be a people person. Retail managers can say anything they want that I don't know how to live, but I'm still living, right? We think because we don't know, somebody else must know, but really it's false confidence. Does anybody have all the answers? Does anybody know how all the variables react? They don't. They just provide their best guesses with confidence, right? They use what seems to work, what seems to make sense, what the evidence says. Maybe the evidence is misled. Maybe it's affected by a different variable than what they assume. And that realization can lead to nihilism, but it's worth it. It's something else, and you're something else if you're still listening here. You're enjoying this, and I'm enjoying it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking and ranting on for 30 minutes. And something inside me is saying, keep doing this, but also don't do it. But I don't care. I've lived. No matter what happens. Right, because I was listening to the radio and it was somebody fretting about CDC says the life expectancy went down 1 year on average because of how bad 2020 was. And I was thinking, is that really a tragedy? I'm not saying that to be nihilistic and cynical, not to say I want to escape life. I want to enjoy life, and I'm going to be here to enjoy it. But in the grand scheme of things, what difference is there between a bullet in the brain, hypothetically, at age 72 versus 82? You might miss some experiences, but you don't know what you don't miss if you don't know. And it's terrifying, but true, that there's so many things we don't know. We think we know everything about something, but the more we know, the more we realize we don't know. And so there's no point in learning anything unless it has a practical application or you enjoy the process. And even if you're doing it for the applicable, there's still many lessons that doesn't apply to what you're looking for. You still need to know in order to, right? Because I was in the library about a week ago. It was this businessy, but it was disguised as a mental book saying, quote unquote, all realizations are worthless unless they have a practical application. Well, realizations are up for interpretation because, again, they're just assumptions that seem to be true. There might be other actual forces acting upon them. You have to enjoy the journey. But also, maybe there are strong realizations that doesn't seem to have any function that actually on down the road might have some function, right? This is very theoretical. I don't really like too theoretical, but it has to be said that there's no never and no always in the universe, pretty much, right? Maybe except time and gravity, the constants, but even that, it changes. Time changes as you travel faster or closer or farther away from stuff with gravity. I don't completely understand it, but the constants aren't constantly constant. Right? So I can't come to any real big stark conclusions from that. That's just one variable, one truth. We think we can thread truths together to find one ultimate truth. Some complement each other. Some are just seem to operate on their own, but really everything's connected. Everything is what it is because it is influenced by something else. And that's fine. We think we know what's going to make us happy, but we don't know. We don't know how if things were different, it could have made us happier or worse. And we can fret and be filled with regret that we know if something else would have happened. But no, we don't know. So we should have compassion that we don't know everything. Maybe if we would have gotten married, our gut instinct was true that it would be living hell, that we would be misunderstood. We would be in constant stress and expectations that shouldn't have been there. And that's okay. We think so many things are permanent, but they're in constant stasis. Or, not stasis, the opposite. Flux. We're cycling. And I'm trying not to get onto the territory of the stability of instability. I already touched on that, but it's essential, though. It's a part of life. It's being consistent, yet adaptable, or being adaptable and being consistent where you can be, is more important than shaping yourself to fit one rigid narrative. We think that's going to make us happy and happily ever after, but nope. Because life always changes. We don't have to change. We can suffer, right? I think that's what happens as we all age. We want to get stubborn. There's this existential dread that it's just all pointless. And that's fine in a way. It's fine if we don't feel that. Right? Because we have less energy, there seems to be less opportunity for realizations, but I think the framework, because we think there is less opportunity to make connections, that there must be less, right? There's so many cognitive biases that build up and so much stuff not agreeing. Man, I need to finish my soup. I'll be back. If I don't walk around in between talking here, it's just goes nowhere, dead ends. But really, life is just one big tangent. Lots of big tangents. And when I talk to people and they think the conversation should go one way, it should only last so long, I just don't understand. Because enjoyment is randomness, is chaos, and order. Balance is key. People think order is the key, but no. No. I'm not saying be all chaos. I'm saying it has to be incorporated. Chaos is unpredictable, dangerous sometimes, maybe, but variety is the spice of life. And as long as you're following the absolute rules of the legal system, not stepping on toes, not anything too extreme, what's no harm, no foul? And I don't want to get into the technicalities of free speech, but ultimately it is based on intent. If you didn't intend to hurt anybody, why is it an issue? Right? Everybody should have the right to express themselves, even if they're wrong. Because everybody's intelligent in their own ways, even if they don't realize it, and it's just a byproduct of evolution. Ignorance is a strategy, is intelligence, because it does protect the individual. Even though the individual themselves might not be exemplary by any means, they're a living, breathing I want to say miracle, but really, we don't understand. How are we a miracle and yet other animals aren't? I don't understand that, but I'm not going to get too into the technicalities. I feel like I need to look back. I feel like I'm going way on a tangent, but then again, life is tangents, and that's the fun of it. But yeah, there's just randomness. Just enjoy the randomness. Maybe that should be the main takeaway. Don't have regrets, have compassion, but also have randomness. Invite the randomness, date the randomness, marry the randomness. No, yeah, it's important, but stability is good. It's not great. That's the existential joke, isn't it? Stability is good, but there could be something greater. Is it worth the risk? Who's to say? So even though I'm really enjoying making this video and talking about so many different things and integrating them, it does scare me in a way. It makes me feel hopeless and I have no true control. But I think the universe, God, is revealing these things to me because I've suffered enough, because I can just cruise now. I can enjoy myself and not fret, and know that fretting and worrying only causes me harm, and expecting only causes me harm. So why am I reaching? Why do I think I have to go fossil hunting to be a fossil hunter? What prize do I get by being an official fossil hunter or an official Tampa fisherman? I don't get anything. So why do I needlessly need to suffer? Right? I'm not saying I've suffered way more than other people, but for somebody who's worked so hard, who's realized and developed themselves to feel misunderstood, to feel I'm not worthy, you have to realize that so many things in life are subjective, and that you can give other people power. You can think you know what's going to come your way, what should come your way, but really, who's to say that was even going to make you happy, right? That can be people super nihilistic, but this is about myself, because I'm talking and it's going on in my mind that the solution for anything super complex is to either let go or to learn to live with it, right? I can't let go of intense grief. I can't let go of the feeling I might have some regrets of old age, and that's okay. As long as I have self-compassion and I work on it, and I figure out how to best handle it, right? Because we're all going to have our non-stop issues no matter what, and that's okay. Because these people will keep calling me, and it's an unknown number, and I probably should have answered it because you never know if it could be somebody in an emergency, but oh man, I could care more, I could care less, but that derailed me. What else? Spaghetti monsters are great. No, need some randomness sometimes. You're just ranting on, and I probably needed that, because when you talk too much sense, no matter what you're talking about, it becomes monotonous. It becomes even talking about the fact that things became monotonous, right? So you want to learn more about snaggletooth sharks? No, but yeah, my when you become a hyper intellectual of sorts, I think you realize how shallow it is, and it seems so clear as day to people who live only in the spirituality. They know that's not going to fix them. They know that everybody has their own type of intelligence, that they didn't have to suffer to realize that. But to the hyper intellectual types, whatever you want to call them, nerds, geeks, shut-ins. No. There's so many things we realize there's no meaning in life. There's so many things, no inherent meaning in life that we know from the get-go, and they don't. So who's better here, really? Nobody. It's an even playing field in its own right. And there is inequalities, but it seems, I could be wrong, that it all evens out, because even when going through hell, there are lessons to be learned. When there is sunshine, sure, there's sunshine, but there's also, it is desolate because there's nothing but sunshine. You have to enjoy the variety and the lessons and the random stuff that pops out at you, right? Because if you walk on a thin, narrow, righteous path, even if you get what you're after, what kind of journey did you go on? How did you get there? Did you just buy that? Was it given to you? You can't fully appreciate it. Right? We think the destination is just going to make us happy. But if we don't internalize how we got there, how we can't just take things for granted. We have to enjoy everything, most everything we have going for us, especially our strengths. If we just focus on our weaknesses, we seem like a worthless person. If we only focus on our strengths, we seem like God. So the solution is balance. We're not worthless and we're not God. We're something in the middle. Right? It's so easy. It seems like, no, that's impossible. You can't see yourself as totally worthless, and you can't see yourself as otherworldly, but people do it all the time. That's the scary thing. You could be driving down the street. You could pass 5 people who think either of those. And we have to think about the big picture. Yeah. Big picture, that we are just what we are. We're not what we're not, and we are what we are. It seems so subtle, but that's where we belong. We are a creature of this earth, and we just are what we are. So we know that expectations are no good for the most part, except don't squash the inner expectations. Otherwise you won't know what to do and how to guide yourself, because we need ego, but ego is meant to stay on the ground. Because the moment we build up our ego, right, it's so shallow, it's going to be stepped on by other people, because we are naturally overconfident. We think we know what we're talking about, or what we learn, until we have to regurgitate it. We're always going to seem more stupid than our brains think, because our brains think we have everything figured out. I caught a shark. I learned about sharks in a book, right? I know everything there is to know about sharks. Okay, how does it feed exactly? Right. So many different topics in life are like that. Excuse me. But onto worrying. One important aspect, this would really come in handy to a lot of people because of the importance of sleep. Yet, sleep isn't important, because we're always going to have it no matter what. And the more we worry, the more it's drilled into our head, we need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. We're not going to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep because we're caught worrying. So the solution, if we're waking up at 12:30 at night, which I have, well, I'm probably an exception, that means the next night you're going to sleep extra good. So there's nothing to worry about. Man, I just probably pissed off my neighbors there. They probably had a sneaking suspicion there. But it's hard to say whether me just yelling out random references or me talking hyperlogical sense is more annoying to them. But, I had a real trip today. I was doing mosquito work and mosquito control, trying to control the insects we think we can control, right? And I came up to this guy. This guy was walking out of a trail. There's mosquito trails into the salt marshes. And I knew the from the get-go, it amazed me. I knew the perfect thing to tell him, to ask him, and it definitely took him by surprise. I said, "Hey, that's not a mangrove, is it?" And he looked at me with this despondent look, like I'm in trouble. And that was all the enjoyment I needed in the day. Not that I needed the power, I just wanted to push his buttons a little bit. And I know that's kind of mean, but this life is so short. How can you not mess with people a little bit? And then I was kind of joking around, like, hey, you could take down cherry trees, Brazilian peppers, I couldn't care less. But if you cut down a mangrove, like, and that's the funny thing, even if he did take down a mangrove, what am I going to do about it? At best, if he's trying to cut down all the mangroves, okay, I'm not going to lose sleep over that. I'm just going to call FWC. They're going to lock him up. They're going to take care of it for me. But I just wanted to push his buttons a little bit. And I think it's kind of scary because you never know whose buttons to really push, because people are operating at such different wavelengths. But I know the solution to worrying about worrying is just letting go, because this life is just a game. It's the biggest secret. Yep, it operates on the same wavelength as a game. Although there are no clear winners or losers, you have to define the criteria. There's just survivors and non-survivors, right? We could say that money is the ultimate goal. That definitely makes you happy, and the more money you have, the happier you'll be. But we know all the research. No, there's a tipping point, and it's much shallower than most people expect. Much, much shallower. That once you surpass that number, I think they said 80,000, it's all excess. Right? I think people think that by isolating, by being culturally distinct from the working class or something, that they're going to, find out all the meanings of life that a person of a working class actually does. Right? Isn't that the truth? Sorry, that was too loud. Man. Dry humor and realization humor is the best humor. What else is there to say? Man, 2 points there. I was afraid I wouldn't come to any grand realizations, that I wouldn't enjoy the journey, but I definitely have. And you always need to have excess money in the bank account, because look, I've had a time in my life, I went out to eat all the time. I was spending a bunch. It didn't make me any happier at all. It made me feel worse, because I knew I was operating on an unsustainable basis. No matter how delicious the food tasted and how much joy I felt like I was getting out of ordering stuff on Amazon I probably didn't even need, but I felt like I needed. Right? Everything we need spiritually, we already have. Otherwise, how do you say it? Otherwise, it wouldn't be relevant, and we wouldn't have it. Right? People change all the time. I'm not denying that. But everything they need is inside of them. And we can keep adapting. We can try to keep taking the wheel. But that's not how the ship is best sailed. We have to trust the universe. Trust our intuitions. Trust tried and true methods. Stop trying to worry to prevent future worrying, as I said. And stopping. Just go. Go until you can't go anymore, because what is the fault in that? I don't see. Unless you're doing something really, really sketchy. Just keep going. Just keep living because you can. You don't need anything to live for. I mean, it helps. But again, if we build up our ego, we think we know what we're doing, but we don't, because ego is shallow. Ego tells you you need this, you need that, you need to stay away from this person, you need to stay with this person, but it doesn't know anything. And that's a sad reality, but it is the reality. And I don't even know if I'm feeling good actually deep down inside, or if I'm feeling like despondent and what the heck am I doing? I think it's a flux. It's kind of a mixture, a grayness. And it's not inherently better than any other states. It's just a state. Right? It feels good to reach such heights of sorts, such peaks, what feel like peaks. But like with video games or anything, you feel like you can hit a peak. Maybe you'll go higher. Maybe you will never, hit that peak again. You just have to live your life and just keep going and not worry about worrying about other people worrying about the consequences of not worrying. Worrying is poison. There's no doubt about it. When you worry, even worrying about regret, we have this illusion that we have to worry, we have to give power to our potential regrets. But as long as we accept ourselves, other people have no choice but to accept us. So really, there's no harm in self-compassion. Other people can say what we are, but we are what we define ourselves as. It's scary in a way, but it's the truth. What else is there to say? Besides, live your life. And my mind is trying to make all kinds of calculations and assumptions, but I think I've said everything I need to say. Really. I probably could have made this video half as short, but sometimes you have to enjoy the journey and not just the destinations and the realizations. You know? I didn't intend on making this an hour long. Oh, shit. My screen went black. I was about to make another hyper realization, but it is true that when you're in the abyss and the darkness, you can have light shining even brighter. That's definitely an important thing in life. Not saying torture yourself intentionally, but life is going to give you some suffering. So why do we needlessly need to suffer when we don't need to? When the universe is telling us so many things, God has shown us so many things, that you don't have to bear this burden. You don't have to have so many expectations on yourself. You don't have to have that future regret. Just live your life. Just enjoy the journey. Enjoy the dancing. Enjoy so many things. Don't worry about the bank balances. And again, I don't have all the answers. That's the fun of it and the depressing thing about it. And I feel like I'm wasting my time by keep ranting. I want to watch TV. And I feel like I deserve it. I deserve some ice cream or alcohol or something. No. I'll probably make another talk about alcohol. So many mixed feelings. So many mixed drinks I want to drink, but I know I shouldn't. Wow. This might have been my magnum opus. It's such a chilling feeling. But then again, I know I've made some realizations. It could be, it couldn't be. Wow. You just have to be grateful and accept it, no matter what you stumble upon. Whether you want it to be there or not. You just have to accept it. Gratitude. Acceptance. Just learn to live with it. And know that everything is a blessing and a curse in their own ways. And if something is super torturous, don't worry about it because it's going to vanish. Right? I don't know all the degrees that that's applicable. but I know it's the truth. It's much more true than not. And it's okay. We just have to live on. Yep, that's all we have to do.